Massachusetts, Maryland, Georgia, Delaware,
All
Connecticut.
right, we're not talking about fucking states right now, okay? We're talking about something even more sweet. Come on.
Sugar.
You like what I did there?
Sugar.
How much sugar do you guys think you eat a day? This
Don't
is
go there,
filled
please.
with Kool-Aid, by the way.
Please don't go there.
And this is 64 ounces. This is 64 ounces of Kool-Aid.
I don't know. Half a bag of sugar every day, maybe.
We're watching Sugar, the butter truth today. Or
Sugar.
bitter.
Bitter.
Sukar. Sukar. So Smellies wanted me to feel bad about my weight.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? I don't think you feel like a fat enough piece of shit today. I think you're feeling too good, Herbal. I think you're riding some confidence
I think you feel
high.
like you're 170
I
pounds.
think
You need to
I
put
feel
those
like-
pounds back on, bitch.
Do you,
I
do you
want
know
you
what
to
I would
be a
look
little
like at
scared.
170 pounds? I would
Not
look
good.
like I had cancer. Okay, look, no joke, all jokes aside, I'm 6'2".
Let's try it.
Bro.
Let's try. I bet you look fucking
I was out
fit.
today. I was
Telling
out
you.
today, right? And there's this grammar school where I was, and this fucking girl came out of grammar school. She had to at least be 6'7", bro. She was skinny and so fucking tall, it was unreal. She had to like bend down to get through the door of places.
Ah,
It was
slender
so
woman.
strange. It was so
Prowling
strange.
around the
You
grammar
know what would be
Someone so young,
terrifying?
she is so
If
tall.
you were the only person that saw her,
Imagine.
could you
But
like?
no.
No,
Like, she's in grammar school, so what? She's like probably, I don't know, like 15, 16, yet she's so fucking tall. I was like, wow. What the fuck?
Damn, bro. Imagine getting the shit kicked out of you by a tall fucking 15-year-old girl.
Oh,
She's
that,
like-
that
she's-
27-year-old
She's
is out
throwing hands
in the parking lot to get.
You think
Oh,
you fucking
call the number. Call the number.
She brings out like you bring two of your friends, you get your ass whipped, come back with two of your friends. They both get their ass whipped too. Man, that'd be fun. I don't know. What do you think? It's like you show up and then you bring me and fucking Smellies back.
When I was in high school,
You're like, me and my mates got you this time, and she's just beating both of you with me, using me as a bat. I'm like, no. Oh, the
when I was
heavier
in high
one.
school, we
means
had a
less
kid in my
wings.
high school that was 7'2", I believe his height was.
7.
7'2".
I
He
don't
was
know,
fucking
bro.
tall.
Too
I
much.
think he's dead now.
I don't know, bro.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
think
like one of
there
those
haven't
things.
been that many
If you
people.
become-
His heart
If you
became
become
3
that tall,
sizes.
Yao
young,
Ming,
like-
I don't even think is 7 feet tall. There are very few people that have reached 7 feet.
He was 7'2".
All right. Anyway,
Right, Sugar.
sugar.
This program is presented
Isn't it
by
weird that it's called
University
Shuh
of California
and there's no H in
Television.
it?
Oh, so this was
Like what you
actually.
Visit our website
actually
or
on
follow us
TV?
on Facebook and Twitter
Yes.
to keep up
Or
with
is
the
this
latest
University of
UCTV
California
programs.
television? That's something different.
Oh, okay.
Because this could just be the shit that they played in the class. My fucking back is so itchy.
But you get to being a big man and go outside and find a tree.
Shut up.
Oh.
I hate you. I refuse to use one of my straws. I need a fucking.
Are you streaming your screen? Or...
Oh,
have a back scratch.
motherfucker! I guess nothing's playing. Are you screaming your screen or?
Are you screaming your stream?
Shut the fuck up. Okay, I said it wrong.
Are you screaming your stream?
Lick my balls. All right, we're doing
Scream the
this.
stream.
I'm going to
Scream
tell
it.
you tonight a story. And this story dates back
is old
about
as fuck.
30 years.
This is old as fuck.
This story has a little bit of something for everybody. It has a little bit of biochemistry, a little bit of clinical research,
yeah,
a little bit of public health, a little bit of politics.
Is it
I was,
Lustig
I
or
was
Lustig?
literally gonna say humor. I was literally gonna say humor, a little bit of humor, a little bit of no. He's talking about biochemistry, politics.
A little bit of racial innuendo.
Let me turn this
The only thing it's missing is sex.
Sex. What?
But
What's that gonna do with sugar?
well, we can see what we can do about that too.
Jesus.
By the end of the story, I
He
hope
makes
I
it
will have
Just threatened to
for
fuck
Electra.
something. I think he just threatened to
think
fuck
so.
something.
He did.
debunked
He
the
said we can
last
make that
30
happen.
years of nutrition information in America. And I would very much appreciate it if at the end of the talk you would tell me whether or not I was successful or not.
I'd like
Okay.
like a man like
So,
this. To
in
tell
order
me.
You
to
can tell
get
me
you
whether or not I was
permitted,
successful in
as
getting
it
into your
were,
pants or not.
let's
We
start
can
with
make
a
that
little
happen.
quiz.
So first of all, let's get this over with. This man is definitely Smully's man crush. Okay.
Yeah.
I like a man like this to teach me a thing or two. Is what Smully said. At least that's what I
No,
heard.
if
Smully
I had
say.
if I had like if my heart was like 2 weeks out from just exploding, I'd want this guy. Like, I'd be looking at his watch like, yeah, he makes enough to get a fancy watch like that. He definitely. It's like I gotta tell it to you straight. All that weed and food, just really, I mean, there's nothing we can do at this point, and I'd just be nodding along like, fuck, that's a really nice gold watch.
Weed
Yeah,
and
wait,
food?
what?
Do you think weed and food is really gonna just make your heart blow up?
I mean, not
Yeah.
directly, but indirectly, yes, yeah. I get high and then I eat terrible food in excess, and as a result, my blood pressure probably isn't.
Did
Great.
you say and add sex and then you fucking? Well, you don't gotta worry about
Yes, that's obviously what
that. And access, you bitch. I know what you said. I just wanted to fucking make it interesting, like I have to do with this video. This is gonna be hard. I'm making a college lecture funny.
you just played 30 minutes of it, and it's
I don't
not
know.
a college,
I
it's
really
not
want
even
to
a
hear.
college. This is 24 million views, and it's important information. I'm just saying.
All right.
So, in
For
order to
once.
get you in the mood,
For
But
once.
is the
let's start with a little
information
quiz.
still relevant?
what are the
Yeah,
Atkins
yeah.
diet and the Japanese
Because
diet have in
people
common?
The word diet.
because the
Wait,
sugar's still.
what does the Atkins diet and the Japanese diet have in common? It's either they both
Isn't the
use
Japanese diet
chopsticks
different?
or they both have the name diet in the title.
They don't have sugar.
Oh, yeah, you have the answers right. Yeah.
Maybe
Never
that's why
mind.
Japanese people
That's
live
right.
to their like
you have
fucking
the answer
500.
right there. Okay. So the Atkins diet, of course, is all fat, no carb. The Japanese diet's all carb, no fat. They both work, right? So what do they share in common? They both eliminate the sugar fructose.
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 Okay?
Fructose?
So with that, think about what it means to be on a diet and what macronutrients you're eating and which ones you're not. And then we'll go from there, and I'll try to explain how this all works.
So this is hard, 'cause
So,
I've never been on a
You've
diet
all
before.
heard about the obesity epidemic.
You have.
Here
You
are
just
the
failed
numbers.
every single one of them.
This is these.
No, I haven't. I've never had a diet before.
You have. You was like, oh yeah, I'm on a diet. So you stop ordering for like 2 days.
No,
And then you
the
fucking
diet
break it.
was no fast food. It wasn't a diet. It was just like a...
It's still a diet.
A dietary restriction over a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, but a diet
Yeah,
to
2 days.
me, okay, so to me a diet is something where like you watch every single thing that you put into, like everything that you eat has to follow a certain criteria, right? And then
So that's
sometimes it
maybe
even
why
has to
so
be
many
on a
fat
list.
people don't do them.
But
Like a criteria like not being fast food.
But no, like that wouldn't be a criteria. Like you could even have some fast foods on other diets. Like a criteria being, it can't have certain amounts of fat in. I don't know. I don't know what fucking diets are. Okay, but like, I don't think not eating fast food is a diet because you can eat like shit still, and it's just not fast food. You just cook it all. Like if I eat fucking 3 pounds of spaghetti when I get home instead of ordering fast food, is that really a diet? Or is that was more me trying to save money? I
That
think, than trying
right
to lose
there is
weight.
a fuck ton of carbs.
Yeah, but I think that was me trying to lose weight versus me trying to save money versus me trying to lose weight. If that makes any.
Yeah, you ain't losing weight if you're having that much carbs, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's not really, that wasn't a diet because I ate whatever I wanted. It just wasn't fast food. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You wanna debate that, Smothers? Come on, I know you got some points.
Tell him he's a fat bitch.
Come on,
Tell him it makes no difference.
feed me. Tell him
Tell him,
fat bitch.
tell him,
Tell him it makes
tell him
no
the-
difference.
Tell him that it's still a dietary restriction because you're putting a restriction on a certain type of food.
It's still a.
You're restricting yourself from having a certain type of food. Therefore, you're going on a non-fast food diet.
But it's not.
Why?
Any type of food restriction that you put on yourself is a diet.
I think my mic is good.
This is how we can fuck over herbal, right? A diet, right? A diet is the kind of food that a person, animal, or community habitually eats.
Really, we're gonna die in the hill whether or not herbal is bad a diet. Look, either way, the fucking answer is depressing.
What
if every modern person should have been.
He's not classing any of his restrictions that he's put on himself as a diet. He's saying that a
Look,
diet is.
And if he's right, he's never been on a diet. That's kind of fucking sad.
It's stupid. He has been. A special course of
matter.
food in which
I agree. I agree. It's just a shit diet.
Restrict oneself to small amounts or special kinds of food in order to lose weight, or the kind of food that a person, animal, or community habitually eats.
It does. I'm not dying on that hill. I just alcohol is code for 3 pieces of burger.
People
that's what we thought too, Luke. But
people often think of a diet as a specific weight loss plan, but diet simply refers to the types and amounts of food a person eats.
I literally asked. I go. When my DoorDasher was outside, I go, "Hey, what does the Atkins diet and the Japanese diet have in common?" He goes, "Shut the fuck up and give me your ID so I can leave." I was like, "Yeah, man, no sugar." And he didn't like that.
Just slapped you across your face.
Just fucking slapped me. Whoa.
It's like ripping your beard out.
That does not look good.
So it doesn't matter.
What doesn't look good? Show it to the camera. Mr. Alcohol.
No, it's not the alcohol. I ordered apple cider.
Show me the apple cider then. Yeah, that's in apple cider.
Look.
You just give it a bit of a shake.
Shit at the bottom.
Yeah, it's fine. Just gotta give it a bit of a shake, that's all.
Give it a bit of a shake, huh?
Yep.
It says best by January 31st, 2026. I don't...
It's probably just... Has it got any concentrate in it? It's probably concentrated apple juice.
No concentrate, no sweeteners.
No.
Unfiltered apple juice.
Oh. There you go then. It's unfiltered.
There you go. It's got all kinds of bullshit in it. Thank you. I'm pretty sure I said apple cider. These niggas get me everything except for what I'm...
What do you want apple cider for anyway?
Anytime I order a bottle of whiskey, I get a little bit of apple cider or apple juice from Martinelli. Martinelli's...
Can we continue with the sugar?
Bro, I got hella sugar here. I don't know if I necessarily should be watching this video because I'm about to...
Do it, pussy bitch.
These are the N. Haynes database.
Herbal is the hill, so it doesn't matter if he dies on it. Yeah!
Body mass index.
Hey, if you want to hop in the chat, Luke, you can. By the way.
Anyway, herbal. As for a diet, people often think of a diet as a specific weight loss plan, but diet simply refers to the types and amounts of food a person eats.
So literally, it could be the worst thing for weight loss, but it's still considered a diet.
Yep, because that's the diet that you're on. That's your diet. That's what you eat. Your diet is what you eat.
Index. Everybody knows what that is.
Like if I go in,
marching
yes,
ever
every single person is on a diet
as time has gone on. This was
because
what was projected
people
for
always say, "Oh, so
in
what's your diet?"
We had so far
and then you'll say,
exceeded
"Oh,
and
okay,
surpassed
well I
this, not
eat
even
this." And they say, "Well, that's not really a healthy diet." So
predictions of BMI distribution in adults. What the fuck does this even mean? So are we supposed to lose weight when we get fucking?
You know what BMI stands for?
It's
Body mass index.
Okay, I thought that's what you were asking. I was like, bro,
Heard about the obesity epidemic. Here are the numbers. This is these are the NHANES.
So this is proportion. And this is
Thank you.
BMI. So what does it mean? 0.8.
0.08 proportion.
Proportion 0.08.
Herbal, isn't he about to?
Yeah, he's probably going to explain like the left
Database, body mass index, everybody knows what that is now. Histograms, marching ever rightward as time has gone on. This was what was projected for 2008 in blue. We had so far exceeded and surpassed, this is not even funny, this was from 2003. The reason I show this is not just to show that the obese are getting obeser, of course that's true, but in fact the entire curve has shifted.
Fucking
we
Americans.
all weigh 25 pounds more today than we did 25 years ago. All
That's what I'm taking from it. Is I don't really care about the shirt, but we on average weight. That's a shocking statistic. This is from 14 years ago, man. I doubt it's gotten
add 14 to the
better.
25. There you go.
Yeah. Well, that's...
If it's continuing the same way that he's saying here, so just imagine that it's continued the same way here.
I'd say at least 30.
Still,
yeah.
you would just add the 14 to the 25 because he's saying that you weigh 25 pounds more than you
Yeah,
did
you guys,
25 years later. So
Like
you just
30
add 14
pounds
to 25.
isn't a fucking.
So everyone
monumental
weighs
amount.
39
You have
So
young
pounds
this
ladies
more
isn't
that
than they did.
pounds. So this isn't pounds.
That's
this is
BMI. That's BMI. Yeah.
Everyone, yeah, but he's saying everyone weighs 25 pounds more now than they did 25 years later. So if this was 14 years ago, if it's continued the same way as in this chart, as what he's saying, then
So this is
now,
smaller.
in theory, everyone should now weigh 39 pounds
I'm
more
not
than they
gonna
So,
did
lie,
but
bro.
you-
This chart confuses the fuck out of me.
So do you see the black? The black one is the older one, right?
Yes.
It's higher.
It's
That's because
between
the
88 and
average is
94.
closer to the 25 mark or whatever. That little less than 25, probably 24. That's there's more of a population.
so
as
their
it
BMI
widens
was
out,
25.
that means more of the population is becoming
Getting
wider
fatter.
and wider to the yeah. And
But
so
what's the
Well,
0.6 and 0.8 over here? Like what's
Maybe
I
he's
think
about to say that.
I think it's
proportion to what?
probably proportion of the population is what.
Yeah, but what's 0.8?
well,
Is that 0.8%?
So when you do,
Because that doesn't make sense.
it might be.
Now,
He's
I-
probably going to explain it. I mean,
I don't think so. I think.
I think it's
There's like less.
I
than
think
a
its
couple
point
seconds
is
left.
we're getting fatter. Can you concede that
I
point?
understand. Yeah, no. I'm not even disagreeing with that. There's no question about anything that what he's saying, right? My question is,
Mhm.
I'm trying to read this fucking graph and it's just not coming to me. Sometimes I see a graph and it just comes together.
We might not be as scientifically inclined. Like proportion might have some scientific statistical meaning that we're just not.
Does the graph mean anything to you other than the difference between the lines? Like you can see, okay, this is what we looked like then.
All right, assuming
Did you know-
proportion is amount of people, then yeah, the graph means something.
here's something to get your head around. So a lot of people in America think, right, because your healthcare is a business, that's the reason why all of your foods products have a fuck ton more ingredients in them than the same product over in the UK. Because your healthcare is a business, so they're profiting off you being ill. So that's why they add all these more ingredients into your food. Whereas in the UK, there's hardly any of the same ingredients in the same food
I could
than there
be
is
wrong,
in the US.
but I think all the ingredients are still in there. They just don't have to be listed in the UK where they have to be listed in the US.
No, every single ingredient has to be listed in the UK. It's one of the food laws.
Does the food taste any different?
Yes.
I don't know. I know
Your
our
food is more
sweeter.
artificial.
I know
Your
our
food is a lot more artificial.
I don't know about that.
There's a lot of artificial shit.
When
in
I
your
was
food.
in the UK, I never stopped and was like, "Oh man."
How long ago was that?
2006.
How do you remember it specifically?
What do you mean? How do I remember it?
Like, you're probably remembering it different to how
I
it
went
actually
to a
works.
whole
lot of-
other fucking country, bro. I went to London, Paris, and Madrid. I remember when I had fucking fried goat cheese with blueberry
That's
fucking
a
sauce on it.
natural fucking
I
cheese.
remember, yeah, I know. I'm not. This was at a restaurant. I feel like you're talking about general food, just food in general.
Yeah, like packets, like packet food.
Yeah. So I guess
Like
I
like
guess
hey,
I didn't have much of that when I was in the UK, though. I will say
here, hang on. Let me show you something real
I didn't
quick.
have much
Take
packet food when I was in the UK. I hated that trip was fun, but it also was so stressful because like I wasn't used to like taking pictures and buying gifts and stuff for people while I was overseas. While I was on vacations, my parents would just do that. So it was like up to me to make sure I took all these pictures and all this shit. And you've never been within 100 miles of London. Yeah, I've been to London. I was in London. We had some really good breakfast there. We stayed in a pretty nice hotel. London and Spain, I had my own hotel room to myself. In Paris, I had to room up with this one guy, this Mexican dude from LA.
here. Look at the pull up the picture I just sent you. That's just ketchup. It's the same for a fuck ton of other foods.
Mm, maybe. I can't speak to that. Is there really that much extra shit? High
Hmm.
fructose corn syrup,
That's the what. That's the bad one. The high fructose corn syrup. We just use sugar. But why would it be that different if they weren't trying to profit off you being ill? You know, like say the type of ill where you're put on medication for the rest of your life. That medication costs a lot of money. That's a lot of money that they can get out of you over time. Considering there's a fuck ton of you in the fucking US. That fucking healthcare system that you've got is fucking profiting big time off you guys.
Mm, I could see it. That is a conspiracy theory I could possibly get behind. Tomatoes.
Yeah, we use actual tomatoes. You use tomato concentrate,
Mm-hmm.
which the concentrate itself is going to have sugar in it.
Spirit vinegar. Distilled vinegar. High fructose corn syrup. None of that. You guys just use sugar. Salt. Spice. Onion powder, natural flavorings. Herb extract spice, which is pretty much the same. But yeah,
The 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 ones that are really bad for your health that you've got compared to what we've got.
are
What
the
we've got, the only
syrups.
thing in it bad for our health is the sugar. For you, the tomato concentrate is going to be full of sugar on its own. Then you've got the high fructose corn syrup.
So this is ingredients: pasteurized apple juice. They don't even give ingredients. It just says pasteurized 100% apple juice from grown fresh apples. Vitamin C. Natural sediment may occur. Refrigerate after opening. Oh, this was done in Watsonville? Martinelli Co. Watsonville. Let's see. Total sugars 31 grams. Added sugars. Oh, but this is serving size. So it's 8 ounces, so about 4 per container. So just multiply 4 times the sugars. So 4 times 31. Ooh, 1,234.
That's if you was to drink the gold bottle.
124.
There you go.
Fuck.
That's that. There you go.
I'm
There's a
gonna
better
drink the
image.
whole bottle. What do you mean? That's if you drink the whole bottle?
No,
Yeah, that's like
in one,
$4.
like all in one. It's not going to affect you if you take a time, like much, if you take your time with it.
I'm gonna drink this and like before the end of
Pull up,
stream. Probably.
pull up the second image I just sent you.
I see it. All right.
Like, look at your Doritos compared to our Doritos, and shit like that. Put it up on stream, bro.
It's up on stream. Shut the fuck up.
Oh, hang on, my bad. I was looking at the Discord stream.
They have the oatmeal.
Yeah, the oatmeal is fucking crazy.
I don't think it's because they dry that shit out. Sunny D. Okay, but Sunny D is different than whatever this is. Sunny D isn't even really considered orange juice.
No, it's like orange flavored water over here.
It's like orange drink.
It's just orange flavored water here. It's so fucking watered down. It's ridiculous. It used to taste so good, and it changed fucking flavor.
And you can get the 50% less sugar
Yeah,
version of
yeah,
the same
yeah,
brand
yeah.
here if you want.
In the UK, they do a lot of either no sugar or less sugar items of the same thing, like sauces, all that sort of stuff.
Dick all of that.
Yeah, it's because, like I said, your healthcare system wants your money. They can't have your money if you're not ill.
I don't know if that's the particular reason.
Why
It
would
could
it
be.
be so different?
It could be.
What's the need for all the extra ingredients otherwise?
Extra ingredients, like maybe getting rid of high fructose corn syrup fucking ends like Monsanto or whatever fucking corporation. What's the corporate CNH or whatever produces sugar, right? And then all those jobs are out on the table. So like the owner of CNH is like, okay, or you know, if you guys agree to put these products in your fucking if you guys agree to put these products in your product,
Oh,
right?
Luke, the reason why the US Fanta is so orange is because they use a lot of artificial coloring.
I like how Fanta in America is actually orange. What Fanta in your guys' is what? What color is it?
It's yellow.
Really?
Yeah, but you guys use a fuck ton of artificial coloring. We don't have. We're not allowed to use artificial color. We're not allowed to really use anything artificial in our food products.
Show me Fantas. Show me your guys' Fantas. I'm not gonna sit here and try to justify the American system. I'm just gonna say that it might be like backdoor deals versus like people trying to make us sick on purpose, right? It's only for the detriment of a country to have their citizens fat and useless. Like that wouldn't be something America would do to themselves on purpose. I think like if you have somebody who's like working, oh damn,
There you go.
yeah, Fanta literally looks fucking, and they both taste the same? I wonder.
No, US one is a lot sweeter because obviously you've got the artificial colors, flavorings, more sugar, a lot more sugar. It's like 80% sugar in the US. Over here, it's like 5 or 15.
All right. So anyway, what I was saying,
I'll be back
I
shortly.
think like you might have some guy that is like a fucking suit for the fucking CNH company. He talks with PepsiCo. He's like, all right, use this much of our product in your fucking in your sodas, and we'll give you like a price discount on it or something like that. And so like PepsiCo, so they become their biggest fucking seller, and then you know maybe shit like that. I don't know if it's necessarily like a conspiracy theory to make Americans sick so that the fucking like medical conglomerates can fucking profit off of us being sick. Does that make any sense? What do you think, Smellies?
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Can you
You are breaking up something crazy.
dealing with same shit? Hold on.
Damn, the Fanta does look completely fucking different. And look, your Fanta looks like orange juice.
Hopefully, is this working? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not breaking up.
What does your guys' orange juice look like? Does it look the same as ours or different? Because you said orange juice is yellow. Orange juice is yellow for us too, though. Smellies?
Yeah, their Fanta is totally different than our Fanta. You can't even compare it.
Oh, have you had it before?
No, but I read something about it. It's just like it tastes different too. I think it's actually so ours looks more orange, but theirs tastes more orange um if that makes sense.
Ours tastes like orange soda.
Right, theirs tastes more like the same but more orangey.
Ours tastes more real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think what
They might have better food in the UK.
I think we do food. I think depends.
Snacks. I think snacks.
Yes,
Snacks
yes.
than we
Processed food. They have better standards for processed food.
Yeah, that's the best way to say it. All right, I'm gonna get all my fucking processed food from Keelan now.
Yep. I can send you whatever food you want to try in the UK you don't have over there. I just have to notify the FDA before I send it over there.
I'm sending my buddy boxes and boxes of fast food snacks because I'm just like, yeah, give me snacks. Send me mini snacks, Keelan.
I want you to try Bueno. Best fucking chocolate you'll ever eat in your fucking entire life. But I'm telling you, it's literally the best fucking chocolate bar you'll ever have.
Toblerone?
Way better than a Toblerone. Fucking way better than a Toblerone.
Why do you say it like Toblerones are fucking fire? They're smackalicious.
Yeah, but Buenos are way better. Look, back me up on this one. Buenos.
Buenos. All right, anyway.
It is often said that obesity is the ultimate interaction between genetics and environment. And Dr. Christian Vase, who's sitting in the back of the room, will be talking to you next week about the genetic component, which I am also very interested in.
Full of sugar.
But having said that, our genetic pool did not change in the last 30 years, but boy, oh boy, has our environment sure changed. Okay? So tonight, we're going to talk about the environment rather than genes. Okay? Now, in order to talk about the environment, we need to talk about what is obesity. And of course, you're all familiar with the basic concept of the first law of thermodynamics, which states that the total energy inside a closed system remains constant. Now, in human terms, the standard interpretation of this law is the following. If you eat it, you better burn it, or you're going to store it. Now, who here believes that? Oh, come on, you all do. Okay? I used to believe that. I don't anymore. I think that's a mistake. I think that is the biggest mistake, and that is the phenomenon I'm going to try to debunk over the course of the next hour, because I think there's another way to state the law. Okay, which is much more relevant and much more to the point. Before I get there, of course, if you believe that, these are the two problems, right? Calories in, calories out. Two behaviors, right? Gluttony and sloth. After all, you see anybody on the street, oh, he's a glutton and a sloth. That's all there is to it. You know, Tommy Thompson said it on the TV show. We just eat too damn much, right? Well, you know, if that were the case...
Wait a second. I feel triggered. I'm not a glutton or a sloth. I necessarily don't like working, and I do like eating.
He's about to debunk it. He's about to prove why you're not a gluttonous sloth.
Yeah, yeah, he's gonna debunk. He's gonna make me show. He's gonna show why my fatness is not my fault.
I'm not sure if that's gonna be the case.
These titties ain't my fault. These titties ain't my fault. Pop, pop. All right.
Banned on Twitch.
Banned on the sexual gestures referring to nipples and/or breasts. Like, wait a second. No, I'm a man. God damn it.
Case. How did the Japanese do this? Why are they doing bariatric surgery on children at Tokyo Children's Hospital today? Why are the Chinese? Why are the Koreans? Why are the Australians? I mean, you know, all these countries who've adopted our diet all suffer now from the same problem. And we're going to get even further in a minute. Okay? There's another way to state this first law. Okay? And that is, if you're going to store it, that is biochemical forces that drive energy storage, and we'll talk about what they are in a few minutes, and you expect to burn it, that is normal energy expenditure for normal quality of life, because energy expenditure and quality of life are the same thing. Things that make your energy expenditure go up make you feel good, like ephedrine, it's off the market. Coffee for 2 hours, then you need another hit like me. Things that make your energy expenditure go down, like starvation, hypothyroidism, make you feel lousy. Okay? And how many calories you burn and how good you feel are synonymous. So if you're going to store it, that is an obligate weight gain set up by a biochemical process, and you expect to burn it, that is normal energy expenditure for normal quality of life, then you're going to have to eat it. And now all of a sudden, these two behaviors, the gluttony and the sloth, are actually secondary to a biochemical process, which is primary. And that's a different way to think about the process. And it also alleviates the obese person from being the perpetrator, but rather the victim, which is how obese people really feel. Because no one chooses to be obese. Certainly no child chooses to be obese. Oh, you say, oh yeah, sure, I know some adults who don't care. You know, Rossini, the famous composer, you know, La Gazza Ladra, Marriage of Figaro and all that, he retired at age 37 to a lifetime of gastronomic debauchery, okay? Maybe he chose to be obese, okay? But the kid...
Gastronomic debauchery? Did you really just use that phrase?
Yes, it's just a posh way to say he's gonna fucking...
No, I know what the fuck it means, but it's like gastronomic debauchery. Like when I think of debauchery, I think of like the nastiest sex on like a sex swing with like everybody naked, dicks everywhere, fucking titties everywhere, everybody shooting fucking cum, and like just gastronomic. So I'm just picturing just like steaks, hams, turkeys, fucking hot dogs, chili cheese dogs, burgers. Just everything just surrounding him, and he's just fucking eating. Just it's I don't know. Gastronomic debauchery sounds sexual.
Is the mind of a fat man.
You've seen a mukbang.
That's gastronomic debauchery. Is that what a mukbang is?
Only an obese guy.
I thought that's like gastronomic exhibitionism. I think that's what a mukbang is. Gastronomic exhibitionism. That's a fucking mouthful. Like you're exhibitionist, but you're gastrodynamic. Okay. You get what I'm saying? It's like, ugh.
Nope. Doesn't work.
Gastronomic exhibition. Okay, so an exhibitionist is somebody who likes to have sex.
Wait, obviously no.
So gastronomic is like I'm taking the same thing that he did with the. Yeah, bro, I gotta explain my jokes to my co-hosts, bro. It's not.
Kids I take care of in obesity clinic.
This guy smells his own farts to see if he's feeling all right for sure.
Do not choose to be obese. In fact,
hey, I smell my own farts.
This is
not
the
on purpose
that
though,
proves
because
the
the
rule.
fucking
we have an
curtain is behind me.
epidemic of
It's almost
obese
like I'm shooting myself in the head.
6-month-olds. Now,
What?
if you want to say that it's all about diet and exercise, then you have to explain this to me. So any
obese
hypothesis that you want to proffer that explains the obesity epidemic, you've got to explain this one too. Okay? And this is not just in America, these 6-month-old obese kids, but these are around the world now.
1,000%.
So open your minds
Not like just
and let's go and figure out
just
what
said
the
it's
real
around the
story
world.
is. Okay?
But it's mainly America.
Let's talk about calorie
We're leading
intake,
the
because that's what
charge,
today
but
is
you
about.
are
We're going to talk about the
following right
energy
behind.
intake side of
Yeah,
The
the
Belgian.
we have too many restrictions.
Sure enough.
Why in particular the Belgian health minister? Just a question.
We are all eating more now than we did 20 years ago. Teen boys are eating 275 calories more. American adult males are eating
See,
one.
I can understand this fucking chart hella easy. Okay, I can understand this chart super easy, right? 1981 or 1989, 91,
I'm just
94, 95.
saying, not every
boom, boom.
chart is
You see
made
what I'm
for the
saying?
layman.
Children,
you know?
boom, 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 boom. But this other one, bruh.
Don't go back. We were only 8 minutes into the fucking.
I'm just saying. I know where we are. We're at 7:59. This other one.
My takeaway is that it's just about BMI. Is the trend is going upwards.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just trying to say that you're fatter than you used to be.
Yeah.
I'm willing to concede.
The real story is. Okay? Now,
super easy.
let's talk about.
When I saw this, my mind instantly snapped into like, I know exactly what this is.
Calorie intake, because
Why are 2 to 5-year-olds eating less calories than all children? Never mind.
that's what today is about. We're going to talk about the energy intake side of the equation. Okay? Sure enough, we are all eating more now than we did 20 years ago. Teen boys are eating 275 calories more. American adult males are eating 187 calories more per day. American adult females are eating 335 calories more per day. No question. We're all eating more. Question is, why?
That's from the 90s.
How come? Because it's all there.
Why are women
You know what? It was
eating
there
more
before.
calories than the men?
Okay? We're all eating more. There's a system in our body, which you've heard about over the last couple of weeks, called leptin. Everybody heard of leptin?
Leptin.
Okay? It's this hormone that comes from your fat cell, tells your brain, you know what, I've had enough. I don't need to eat anymore. I'm done. And I can burn energy properly. Well, you know what? If you're eating 187 or 335 calories more today than you were 20 years ago, your leptin ain't working. Because if it were, you wouldn't be doing it, whether the food was there or not. So
then
there's
they just need to
something
fucking
wrong
create a medication
with our
that increases your
biochemical
leptin.
negative feedback system that normally controls energy balance. And we have to figure out what caused it and how to reverse it. And that's what tonight is about. But nonetheless, there are 275 calories we have to account for. So where are they? Are they in the fat?
They're in your dick.
They're not in the fat. 5 grams, 45 calories out of the 275, nothing. In fact, it's all in the carbohydrate. 57 grams, 228 calories. We're all eating more carbohydrate. Now, you all know back in 1982, the American Heart Association, the American Medical Association, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture admonished us to reduce our total fat consumption from 40 to 30%. Everybody remember that? Okay, that's how Entenmann's fat-free cakes came into being. Remember that? Okay, so what happened? We did it. We've done it. 40% down to 30%. And look what's happened to the obesity, metabolic syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, cardiovascular disease, stroke, prevalence, all jacked way up as our total fat consumption as a percent has gone down. It ain't the fat, people. It ain't the fat. So what is it? Well, it's the carbohydrate. Specifically, which carbohydrate? Well, beverage intake, right?
Whoa.
41% increase in soft drinks, 35.
Yeah, fuck soft.
Fruit aids. Oh shit. I fruit drinks. Remember when fruit drinks were a thing? Are they still a thing now?
Yes, very much so.
What's considered like a fruit drink?
Like Capri Sun.
A drink made of
Capri Sun. Okay. So a soft drink is anything with
soft drink is any carbonated drink.
Yeah, carbonated, so it has to be fizzy. So I guess this would be a fruit aid or a fruit drink here.
Anything that's made with real fruit.
Teas and breakfast drinks. Okay, so is orange juice a breakfast drink or a fruit drink?
It's a breakfast drink.
Yeah, I'd go breakfast.
Okay.
Actually, no. No, orange juice would be considered a fruit drink because it's made with real fruit. But, so like teas and breakfast drinks, I would imagine is like tea, coffee, and like other stuff. Like, you know, that breakfast.
What else is tea and coffee? Yerba mate? Is yerba mate in there too? I'm just trolling.
5% increase in fruit drinks, fruit aids, whatever you want to call them. Okay? Just remember, down here, 1 can of soda a day is 150 calories. Multiply that by 365 days a year, and then divide that by the magic number of 3,500 calories per pound. If you eat or drink 3,500 calories more than you burn, you will gain 1 pound of fat. Okay? That's the first law of thermodynamics. No argument there. That's worth 15.5 pounds of fat per year. 1 soda a day is 15.5 pounds per year. Now, you've all heard that before. That's not news to you. The question is, how come we don't respond? How come leptin doesn't work? How come we can't stay energy stable? That's what we're going to get to. So, I call this slide very specifically the Coca-Cola conspiracy. Anybody here work for Coke? Pepsi? Okay, good. All right, so this over here, 1915, the first standard, a lot of you do, right? I remember this bottle because my grandfather in Brooklyn took me on Saturday afternoon down to the local soda shop on Avenue M and Ocean Avenue, and every Saturday afternoon I had one of these.
They're going to talk soon.
I remember it very well. Now, if you drank one of those every day, assuming, of course, that the, remember it very well, and ocean, a lot of you do.
Okay, I just hate to be like nostalgic. Bruh, do you remember when Coke used to look like this?
Yeah, it was classic.
The 1992 bottle?
I was born that year.
I remember them solely being in glass bottles.
Maybe in fucking England. We haven't had glass bottles since the 1915, apparently.
We still have glass bottles over here. You cannot get a better flavored Coke than from a glass bottle. There's something about it being in a glass bottle.
First of all,
Tastes
if you're getting a glass bottle out here, it's a
Coke.
Mexican Coke. And Mexican
Yeah.
Coke uses real sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup.
Cane
So
sugar.
it's way better. Bruh, but the original
I've
Coke
had a Mexican
had
Coke.
cocaine in that shit. Bruh, wouldn't, oh my God, they had, ooh.
I
Man.
think it still does, because the coconut that they had in it wasn't an illegal substance, because it wasn't actually, it was only coca leaf.
Could you make, all right, look, I don't know anything about drugs, and I'm never, you know. Could you, like, make the original Coke recipe if you just put a little bit of Coke inside of a Coke? Would it fizzle?
It wouldn't fizzle, no.
Are you sure it wouldn't? Have you done it before?
Well, cocaine doesn't have any type of citrus or sugar or anything in it. It's just powder. It would just go into the Coke and not do anything.
Could you, like, make it? I feel like it would fizzle hella hard if you put Coke in. I've never dealt with
There's
Coke
nothing
before,
in the
so-
cocaine to make it fizzle.
You'd say that, but cocaine's cut with so much shit.
Yeah, they
like
be cutting it with fucking
yeah.
everything, bro.
whatever fucking baby formula bullshit that. Like,
Could you imagine me going to prison because I try to buy cocaine to try to make the original Coke recipe? Like, what? And then I'm in there and they're like, "Well, what you get caught for?" Well, I was trying to get some cocaine. You a knock? You a fucking cokehead? Oh nah, I was like trying to make the original Coke recipe, you know. So you get a little cocaine and then mix it with the Coca-Cola. But I bought it from this undercover officer. Apparently, everybody knew it was an undercover officer except me.
Coca-Cola still contracts with a chemical company to manufacture cocaine.
What? Send me the
As of
link.
2023.
Send me. You're already copying the link, aren't you? Send that shit.
Yeah, I'm copying the fucking link.
Coca-Cola, man. Is it in the drinks though?
I don't know. I haven't had a chance to read the thing. You just said, send me the link.
just for their executives. Just to,
Coca
want
leaf
the-
has been used
they were
in
class
its
10
native South
employees.
American in medicinal, spiritual,
I
and
want the
recreational.
original, bruh. I want the original one. An unassuming set of blah, blah, blah. Coca-Cola. Coca leaf has been used in South America. When chewed, brewed in a tea, stimulating effect.
I want the red wine. And
How do
cocaine.
you make? Oh my god! How do you like? Isn't there a video Gordon Ramsay like makes cocaine?
Yes.
Something like that. Oh man. All right.
Right? I remember this bottle because my grandfather in Brooklyn took me on Saturday afternoon down to the local soda shop on Avenue M and Ocean Avenue, and every Saturday afternoon I had one of these. I remember it very well. Now, if you drank one of those every day, assuming, of course, that the recipe hasn't changed, because after all, only 2 people in the world know the recipe, and they're not allowed to fly in the plane at the same time.
Recipe.
Right? You know that. Okay. Assuming the recipe hasn't changed, if you drank one of those every day for a year, 6.5 ounces, that would be worth 8 pounds of fat per year. Okay? Now, in 1955, after World War II, and sugar became plentiful again and wasn't being rationed, we have the appearance of the 10-ounce bottle, the first one that was found in vending machines, and you probably remember that one as well. Then in 1960, the ever ubiquitous 12-ounce can, worth 16 pounds of fat per year, and of course today, this over here is the single unit of measure, right? 20 ounces. Anybody know how many servings are in that bottle? 2.5 8-ounce servings, that's right. Anybody know? Anybody who gets 2.5 8-ounce servings out of that bottle? That's a single serving, right? Okay? So that would be worth 26 pounds of fat per year if you did that every day. And then, of course, over here we have the 7-Eleven Big K Thirst Buster, Big Gulp, whatever you want to call it. 44 ounces worth 57 pounds of fat per year. And if that wasn't bad enough, my colleague Dr. Dan Hale at the University of Texas San Antonio tells me that down there they got a Texas-sized Big Gulp. 60 ounces of Coca-Cola, a Snickers bar, and a bag of Doritos, all for 99 cents.
Not any fucking more.
Okay, so if you did that every day
Is it bad that I'm more tripping about the fucking price than the actual, like...
was all for 99 cents. 60 ounces of Coca-Cola, a Snickers bar, and a bag of Doritos, all for 99 cents.
Bruh. Are you kidding me? You could have a fucking bomb-ass lunch with that and a $4 sandwich for $5. I remember I used to get in high school, I used to get $5 a day for lunch. My pops would give me $5, and I would be able to get, like, okay, I would get a donut for breakfast, and then I would get like a burger and fries, and then $1 soda, and that would be like $4 at the fucking Roach Coach. Man, and then they had burritos and shit.
In the
This was
70s
in high
in the
school.
United Kingdom,
This was in high school for me, and then now it's like you need $20 for lunch, easy.
in the UK in the 70s, people could go to the local supermarket, like Tesco's or something, right, with £5 and get an entire week's fucking shop and still have change.
Mm-hmm. An entire week's fucking shop. Say it again.
Go fuck yourself.
Let me ask you something, Keelan.
No.
If you okay, come on, bro. This is a serious question.
Yeah.
All right, come on. Now, this don't even tense up on me. It's okay.
How many inches you packing?
No. It's even worse. It's even worse than that. So if you was walking down the street in the UK and you heard a big, deep voice go, "Where you going with all that good pussy?" Speaking to you, what would your next move be?
Huh?
If you were walking down the street,
What would my
at
next
night,
move be?
if you're walking
How
down
the
the
fuck
street
am I
at night
supposed to answer that?
and you heard a deep voice say to you, "Where you going with all that good pussy?" What would your next move be, bruh?
Well, first of all, let's say, one, we're not in fucking prison.
You would say
Two,
we're not in prison to this dude
get the fuck away from me.
that's
Yeah.
already at that, he's already, bruh. You gotta start stabbing motherfuckers.
That's what I
Wherever
was
you
about
at.
to say next.
That needs to be step one.
I'd fucking gut him.
you got to, bruh. Because he about to come out.
I would fucking grab that knife, put it in one side of his gut, and slice it all the way across.
He's coming at you,
fucking
bruh.
innards just fall out, bruh.
Dick harder than you ever seen before, bruh.
Bitch.
Okay, so if you did that every day for a year, that would be worth 112 pounds of fat per year. Okay? So why do I call it the Coca-Cola conspiracy? Well, what's in Coke?
Mini medical school?
Caffeine, good. So what's caffeine? It's a mild stimulant, right? It's also a diuretic, right? Makes you pee free water. What else is in Coke? We'll get to the sugar in a minute. What else?
What's free water?
Salt. 55 milligrams of sodium per can. It's like drinking a pizza.
Know?
Wait, what?
What's free water?
I don't know what it means free water is.
He said it makes you pee free water.
I think it's just a phrase.
So what happens if you take on sodium and lose free water? You get thirstier, right? So why is there so much sugar in Coke? To hide the salt. When was the last time you went to a Chinese restaurant and had sweet and sour pork? That's half soy sauce. You wouldn't eat that.
Never.
Except the sugar plays a trick on your tongue. You can't even tell it's there. Right? Everybody remember New Coke, 1985? More salt, more caffeine. They knew what they were doing. Okay? That's the smoking gun. Okay? They know. All right, so that's why it's the Coca-Cola conspiracy. So, are soft drinks the cause of obesity? Well, it depends on who you ask. I should.
These numbers look very inadequate. But they are clearly not.
What's P?
P. What is P? Welcome to algebra.
No, I
What
think
is
P
P, Herbal?
stands for something. It stands for like.
Comment, disclaimer, those studies that were funded by the beverage industry showed consistently smaller effects than those that were independent. Wonder why. Now, how about the converse? What if you take the soft drinks away? So this was the fizzy drink study from Christchurch, England, James et al., British Medical Journal, where they went into schools and they took the soda machines out, okay? Just like we did here in California, okay? We haven't seen the data yet, but they went and did it for a year. So the prevalence of obesity in the intervention school stayed absolutely constant, no change, whereas the prevalence of obesity in the control schools, where nothing changed, continued to rise over the year. Well, in America, it's this stuff, right?
If you're diabetic, you cannot have grapefruit.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
High fructose corn syrup.
because,
Everybody's heard of it, right? It's been demonized.
It
something
reacts
awful.
with one of the
So much
medications
so
that you're
that
on
the
for
corn
diabetics.
refiners industry has
That
launched
it's
a mega
if you have
campaign
grapefruit
to
while you're
try
on that
to
medication,
absolve
it increases the
high
dosage.
fructose corn syrup of any problems, which we'll talk about in a moment. Okay, but the bottom line is, this is something we were never exposed to before, 1975, and currently we are consuming 63 pounds per person per year, every one of us. 63 pounds of high fructose corn syrup. That's American, yes. Now, what is high fructose corn syrup? Well, you'll see in a minute. It's 1 glucose, 1 fructose. We'll talk about those at great length. One of the reasons we use high fructose corn syrup is because it's sweeter. So here's sucrose. This is cane or beet sugar, standard table sugar, you know, the white stuff, okay? And we give that an index in sweetness of 100. So here's high fructose corn syrup. It's actually sweeter. It's about 120. So you should be able to use less, right? Wrong. We use just as much. In fact, we use more. So here's lab fructose over here, if you had crystalline fructose, and they're starting to put crystalline fructose into some of the soft drinks. You can, they're actually advertising it as a good thing. And that's got a sweetness of 173. So you should be able to cut that way back, right? They're not. Lactose down here, milk sugar, it's not sweet at all. Okay? And glucose, I should point out over here, is 74. It's not particularly sweet, and we're going to get to that at the end, okay, and what goes on with glucose. All right? But anyway, there's why we use it. It's sweeter. It's also cheaper, as I'll show you. So here's high fructose corn syrup. 1 glucose, 1 fructose. Notice the glucose is a 6-membered ring. The fructose is a 5-membered ring. They are not the same. Believe me, they're not the same. That's what this whole talk is about, is how they're not the same. Okay? And here's sucrose, and they're just bound together by this ether linkage. We have this enzyme in our gut called sucrase. It kills that bond in 2 seconds flat, okay, and you absorb it. And basically, high fructose corn syrup, sucrose, it's a non-issue. It's a wash. They're the same. Okay? And they know that that they're the same. The soft drink companies and the corn refiners, because here are their missives. Okay, this comes from the Corn Refiners Association. Obesity research shows high fructose corn syrup metabolizes and impacts satiety similar to sugar. Indeed, it does. I agree. Okay, decent meetings, academic meetings around the country. Okay? Hunger and satiety profiles energy intakes following ingestion of soft drinks. Bottom line, research supported by the American Beverage Institute and the Corn Refiners Association. They are correct. There is absolutely no difference between high fructose corn syrup and sucrose. So much so that the Corn Refiners Association, in an attempt to capture market share, came out with this entire ad campaign. You probably saw it on the back page of the New York Times. Okay, it was on TV. It's everywhere. My hairdresser says that hot sugar is healthier than high fructose corn syrup. Wow, you get your hair done by a doctor? I didn't know I could cut hair. Okay, if you all want to see all of them, there are a whole bunch of them. You can go to www.sweetsurprise.com and see how you're being hoodwinked. Okay, but indeed, this is true. High fructose corn syrup and sucrose are exactly the same. They're both equally bad.
You think he was assassinated
Okay? They're both
for this, bro?
dangerous. They're both
Exposing
poison.
all of these drink companies?
Okay, I said it. Poison. My charge before the end of tonight is to demonstrate that fructose is a poison. and I will do it. And you will tell me if I was successful. Nonetheless, here's Center for the Science and the Public Interest and the Corn Refiners Association. Everybody remember last year when Gavin Newsom floated a soda tax? Okay, last February. Okay, Governor Patterson of New York has since floated one, and other people are starting to talk about it. So why are they saying this? Well, they're saying obesity is a problem, kids are drinking soda, let's tax it. Okay, so they're talking about soda like it's empty calories. I'm here to tell you that it goes way beyond empty calories. Okay? The reason why this is a problem is because fructose is a poison. Okay? It's not about the calories. Has nothing to do with the calories. It's a poison by itself. And I'm going to show you that. Nonetheless, I just want to read you this paragraph here, okay, in yellow. We respectfully urge that the proposal be revised as soon as possible to reflect the scientific evidence that demonstrates no material differences in the health effects of high fructose corn syrup and sugar. I agree. Here's the important sentence. The real issue is that excessive consumption of any sugars may lead to health problems. I agree. That's exactly right. Not may, does. Does. So here's the secular trend in fructose consumption over the past 100 years. Before we had food processing, we used to get our fructose from fruits and vegetables. And if we did that, today we would consume about 15 grams per day of fructose. Not sugar, fructose. So sugar would be 30 grams, it would be double. Okay? We're just talking about fructose today. Okay? Prior to World War II, okay, before it got rationed again, okay, we were up to about 16 to 24, about 20 grams. So a small increase from the beginning of the century to World War II. Then, in 1977, just as high fructose corn syrup was hitting the market, we had increased that. We had basically doubled up to 37 grams per day, or 8% of total caloric intake. By 1994, we were up to 55 grams of the stuff per day. Remember, if you want to do sugar, then double the number. So that's 10.2. No, so you can see that more and more of our caloric intake, higher percentage, is being accounted for by sugar every single year. So it's not just that we're eating more. We're eating more sugar. Okay? And for adolescents today, we're up to almost 75 grams, 12% of total caloric intake. 25% of the adolescents today consume at least 15% of their calories from fructose alone. This is a disaster. Okay. How'd this happen? Why did it happen? So this is where the politics comes in. This is the perfect storm. And it was created from 3 political winds that swirled around all at the same time to create this perfect storm. So, the first political wind, everything bad that ever happened in this country started with one man. Okay? And it's still being felt today. Okay? So Richard Nixon, in his paranoia back in 1972, okay, food prices were going up and down and up and down. I'm going to show you that on the next slide. Okay? And he was worried that this was actually going to cost him the election. So he admonished his Secretary of Agriculture, Earl Rusty Butz, I love that name, okay, to basically take food off the political table, to make food a non-issue in presidential elections. Well, the only way to do that was to make food cheap. So he was out to find all methods to be able to decrease the price of food. Remember Nixon's war on poverty? We're suffering from it today. Okay? That's what this is. Okay? Second political wind, the advent of high fructose corn syrup. Okay? So this was invented in 1966 at Saga Medical School in Japan by a guy named Takasaki, who's still alive. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, this stuff is Japan's revenge for World War II. Except, of course, that they're suffering from it now themselves. Okay? Like everything, you know, it always comes back to haunt you. Okay? And it was introduced to the American market in 1975. So what do you think happened to the price of sugar when this thing hit the market? Here's what happened. So here's the U.S. Producer Price Index of sugar going up and down and up and down. Okay? This is not good. Okay? Stability is at 100%. If it stays nice and stable at 100%, that's what you want, okay, if you're a politician. up and down. Here's where corn sweeteners entered the market, 1975, 1980, and you can see that since then, the price of sugar has remained remarkably constant. And it did so not just in the US, but also on the international stage. Here's the London price doing the same thing. And when you look at the difference in price between sugar and high fructose corn syrup, you can see that high fructose corn syrup is about half the price. Okay? So in other words, it's cheap. So high fructose corn syrup is evil, but it's not evil because it's metabolically evil. It's evil because it's economically evil, because it's so cheap that it's found its way into everything. It's found its way into hamburger buns, pretzels, barbecue sauce, and ketchup. Okay? Almost everything. Okay? Somebody emailed me the other day and told me they went into their local grocery store and went through every single loaf of bread on the shelf. And out of 32 types of bread on the shelf, only one of them did not have high fructose corn syrup in it. Okay? So we are being poisoned by this stuff, and it's been added surreptitiously to all of our food, every processed food. Okay? And the question is, why? Well, you'll see why in a minute. Okay? So the corn refiners like to point out, well, it's just been a substitution. Okay? As the high fructose corn syrup's gone up, the sugar's gone down. We're just replacing, like gram for gram. Well, not exactly, because here's 73 pounds of sugar per year. This is from the Economic Research Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, okay? So disappearance data, okay? 73 pounds up to 95 pounds by 2000, okay? And there's something missing from this slide. Anybody want to tell me what it is? What's missing? Juice. Juice is missing, because juice is sucrose, right? Sugar. And juice causes obesity. Okay? So this is a study done by Miles Faith, a prospective study in inner city Harlem toddlers. Okay? And the number of juice servings per day predicts the change in BMI score per month in these inner city Harlem toddlers. Now, where do these inner city Harlem toddlers get their juice? From what? From where? From whom? From WIC. Anybody heard of WIC? You know what WIC is? Women, infants, children, right? A government entitlement program set up under who?
Bruh, I had WIC as a child. My mom had WIC.
Nixon, okay? To prevent failure to thrive, they did. This is the equal and opposite reaction.
This is what Nixon did to you, bro.
So let's add juice in. Here it is. And so most fructose items, when you put it together, now we're up to 113 pounds on this graph. And I just heard from Brian Williams of NBC News after the most recent study came out that was in the Journal of Clinical Investigation that we are actually up.
Bro, I remember going with my mom shopping at the WIC when Mario was born. So she would come in with like him and then me like walking along, and then she'd be pushing a little basket. And it would be like a little mini grocery store. It's like, have you seen, like, I don't know if you have this, but like in the mall, how they have like big shops and they have like little shops? So it was in the mall, it was like a little shop, but it was like a grocery store where they had milk and eggs and shit like that and cheese. And it was super cheap.
To 141 pounds of sugar per year, each of us. That's what we're up to, 141 pounds of sugar per year. Okay? Now, do you think that this might have some detrimental effects on you? Hasn't stopped you, has it? That's the point. It hasn't stopped you. That's why we need to talk about this. So, juice consumption increases the risk for type 2 diabetes, okay? So this is the relative risk ratio as juice intake goes up, and this is in the nurses' study, okay? Showing, again, juice consumption, sucrose, obesity, diabetes. Okay, the third political storm, okay, that's swirling around to create this disaster, this mega typhoon, okay? That thing that happened in 1982. The USDA, the American Heart Association, the American Medical Association, all telling us we had to reduce our consumption of fat. Now, why did they tell us that? To stop what? To stop heart disease, did we? No, we didn't, did we? Okay? In fact, it's worked the exact opposite. We've only created more. Okay? So now, how did this come to be? Why did they tell us to stop eating fat? Well, in the early 1970s, we discovered something in our blood called LDL, low-density lipoproteins. You've heard of that, right? Is it good or bad? Not so bad. We'll talk about it. In the mid-1970s, we learned that dietary fat raised your LDL. So if dietary fat is A and LDL is B, we learned that A led to B. Okay, dietary fat definitely increases your LDL, no argument. It's true. So this over here is a book, 1972 it came out, and it was called Pure, White, and Deadly. It's all about sugar.
Sounds like cocaine.
Okay? Written by a British physiologist, nutritionist, endocrinologist by the name of John Yudkin. Now, I never knew John Yudkin. He's passed away. Okay? But I read this book about a year ago, and without even knowing it, I was a Yudkin acolyte. I was a Yudkin disciple. Every single thing that this man said in 1972 is the God's honest truth. And if you want to read a true prophecy, you find this book. It's not easy to find, but you go find this book, and I'm telling you, every single thing this guy said has come to pass. It's astounding. I am in awe of this guy. But on the other side, we had this guy over here. Okay, his name was Ancel Keys. Anybody heard of him? Okay, so Ancel Keys was a Minnesota epidemiologist, very interested in the cause of cardiovascular disease, and he performed the first multivariate regression analysis without computers. Now, anybody know what that means? Multivariate regression analysis? Okay, so this is where you take a whole lot of data, okay, and normally you would just, run a few computer programs, but basically the object is to try to figure out what causes what, and to try to factor out other things and determine what the contribution of various things all at once are to an outcome that you're looking for. So he was interested in cardiovascular disease. And so what he did was he did this study, along with other people around the world, called the 7 Countries Study. Okay? Very famous, front page of Time magazine in 1980.
Coke right
okay?
now.
So here's the data on the 7 Countries Study. So we have the US, we have Canada, Australia, England, and Wales, Italy, Japan. Okay? And here's percent calories from fat on the x-axis, and here we have coronary disease death rate on the y-axis. And so you'd say, well, look at that. I mean, it's very obvious, isn't it? Sure. Percent calories from fat correlates very nicely with coronary disease. Right? Except for one little problem. Anybody see it? Japan and Italy. So how much sugar do they eat? Didn't I tell you the Japanese diet eliminates fructose? They never even had it till we brought it to them after World War II. Italy, aside from gelato, I mean, what else they got? Okay? They got a lot of pasta, there's a lot of glucose, but no fructose. Okay? There's no sugar in the Italian diet other than the occasional sweet, which they moderate. They're very careful about moderating, and they cost a lot. Okay? But here we got England, Wales, Canada, Australia, US. We are sugarholics, aren't we? We're also fataholics. So in fact, the fat migrated with the sugar. So this is from Keyes' own work. Okay, page 262, if you want to pick up the 500-page volume. Okay, and I'm just going to read you the one paragraph, okay, that talks about this. The fact that the incidence rate of coronary heart disease was significantly correlated with the average percentage of calories from sucrose in the diet is explained by the intercorrelation of sucrose with saturated fat. In other words, donuts. Okay? Wherever there was the fat, there was sucrose too. Because these guys here eat donuts. Partial correlation analysis show that with saturated fat constant, there was no significant correlation between dietary sucrose and the incidence of coronary heart disease. Okay. When you do a multivariate linear regression analysis, you have to do it both ways. You have to do holding sucrose fat constant showing that sucrose doesn't work, and then you have to hold sucrose constant and show that fat still works. You see that anywhere? He didn't do it. He didn't do it. He didn't do the thing that you need to do a multivariate linear regression analysis. Now, this was done before computers. We can't check the work. He's dead. He died in 2004. So, we're left with a conundrum. Do we believe this? Do we believe this study? because we based 30 years of nutrition education and information and policy in this country on this study. And as far as I'm concerned, it has a hole as big as the one in the USS Cole. All right, you got it? Everybody,
USS
am I
Cole? I don't understand
Yes,
that
no?
reference, but continue, sir.
Let's keep going. No question about it. Triglyceride to HDL ratio actually predicts cardiovascular disease way better than LDL ever did. Okay? Point is, when you measure LDL, you measure both. So, dietary fat raises your large buoyant. What do you think raises your small dense? Carbohydrate. Okay, so here's percent carbohydrate, and here's your pattern B going up. Everybody got it? So what did we do? What did we do in 1982? What did we do? We went on a high-carb diet, which was supposed to be a low-fat diet, right? Right. So here's the low-fat craze, okay? Took America and the world by storm because the content of low-fat, home-cooked food that you cook by yourself in your house, you can control the content of fat. Okay? But when you process it, low-fat processed food, it tastes like cardboard. It tastes like crap. Okay? So the food companies knew that. So what did they do? They had to make it palatable. So how do you make it something palatable that has no fat in it? You add the sugar, right? So everybody remember SnackWells? Okay, so 2 grams of fat down, 13 grams of carbohydrate up, 4 of them being sugars so that it was palatable. Okay? Well, we've just shown you that that's the worst thing you could do. And that's what we've done. And we're still doing it today. So when you find a mistake, what do? Okay? You admit the mistake and you right the ship. We haven't admitted the mistake, and we haven't righted the ship. So we've had our food supply adulterated, contaminated, poisoned, tainted, okay, on purpose. And we've allowed it, and we've let it through the addition of fructose for palatability, especially because of the decreased fat, and also as a ostensibly browning agent, which actually has its own issues, because why it browns so well with the sugar in it actually is what's going on in your arteries, because that's causing what we call protein glycation and cross-linking, which is actually contributing to atherosclerosis. So it works on your steak on the grill, it works in your arteries the same way. Okay? And removal of fiber also. Now, why did we remove fiber from our diet? We as human beings walking the earth 50,000 years ago used to consume 100 to 300 grams of fiber per day. We now consume 12. Why? What did we do? We took the fiber out. So why did we take the fiber out? Well, it takes too long to cook, takes too long to eat, and shelf life. Okay? So people ask me, what's the definition of fast food? Fiberless food. Okay? I dare you, other than a salad, I dare you to go to any fast food restaurant and find anything on their menu that they actually have to cook that has more than 1 gram of fiber in it, because there isn't any. And that's on purpose, because they take the fiber out, because that way they can freeze it, ship it around the world, and cook it up fast. And not only is it fast cooking, but it's fast eaten, which also causes its own satiety issues. Bottom line, we have a typhoon on our hands. Okay? And then finally, the last issue was the substitution of trans fats, which are clearly a disaster. But those have been going down because we know that those are a problem. So we've actually gotten rid of most trans fats. Not completely, but most. Okay? So this is it. This is what we've done over the last 30 years.
Trans fats are fighting for rights, bro?
Okay. Now to the biochemistry. Okay? Now, how many of you here have taken biochemistry? About 25%. I am going to show you a lot of reactions in excruciating detail. If you've studied biochemistry, you will have an anaphylactic reaction. If you haven't studied biochemistry, you will fall asleep. So what I'm going to suggest that you all do is just let me do my thing to show you that at least it works, and just count the arrows. Okay? You can do that, right?
Count the arrows.
Just count the arrows. It's not like counting sheep.
Okay,
you can count the arrows. And just stick with me, okay? Just let me do my thing.
fam.
And let me show you why fructose is not glucose. Okay? Because what the liver does to fructose is really unique. And you've got to understand it to understand everything I've just told you. Okay? So number one, fructose is 7 times more likely than glucose to do that browning reaction, the advanced glycosylation end products. The thing that happens on your grill happens in your arteries for the same reason. Okay? You can actually see the color too, color change too. Fructose does not suppress the hunger hormone. There's a hormone that comes from your stomach called ghrelin you've heard about already. Okay? So if you preload a kid with a can of soda and then you let them loose at the fast food restaurant, do they eat more or do they eat less? They eat more. They just took on 150 calories, yet they eat more. Reason? Because fructose doesn't suppress the hunger hormone ghrelin. So they eat more. Acute fructose ingestion does not stimulate insulin because there's no receptor for fructose, no transporter for fructose on the beta cell that makes insulin. So the insulin doesn't go up. Well, if the insulin doesn't go up, then leptin doesn't go up. And if leptin doesn't go up, your brain doesn't see that you ate something. Therefore, you eat more. And finally, I'm going to show you liver hepatic fructose metabolism is completely different between fructose and glucose. Completely different. And I'm going to show you, before the day is out, the evening's out, that chronic fructose exposure alone, nothing else, causes this thing we call the metabolic syndrome. Everybody knows what the metabolic syndrome is? Okay, so this is the conglomerate of the following different phenomena. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, lipid problems, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease. Okay? Those all cluster together, okay? Called metabolic syndrome. I'm going to show you how fructose does every one of those. I want to show you the difference between glucose and fructose in a way that will be glaringly apparent. So let's consume 120 calories in glucose. 2 slices of white bread. Okay? What happens to that 120 calories? Now, you eat the 120 calories, 96 or 80% of the total will be used by all the organs in the body. Okay? 80% off the table. Why? Because every cell in the body can use glucose. Every bacteria can use glucose. Every living thing on the face of the earth can use glucose because glucose is the energy of life. Okay? That's what we were supposed to eat. Okay? 24 of those calories, or 20%, will hit the liver. Okay? So let's watch what happens to those 24 calories. Here they go. So the glucose comes in through this transporter called GLUT2. Out here, the glucose is going to stimulate the pancreas to make insulin. The insulin is going to bind to its receptor, and it's going to take this substrate over here called IRS1, insulin receptor substrate 1. That's not important right now, don't worry, okay? And it's going to tyrosine phosphorylate it, okay? And it's going to be tyrosine IRS1, which is now active. That's active. And it's going to stimulate the second messenger here called AKT. Okay? Now, what AKT does is it stimulates this guy down here, SREBP1, sterol receptor binding protein number 1. Don't worry about it, okay? But this is the thing that ultimately gets fat mechanics going, okay? So you'll see in a minute. So one of the things that SREBP1 does is it activates this enzyme here called glucokinase, which takes glucose to glucose 6-phosphate. Now, glucose 6-phosphate can't get out of the liver. The only way to get glucose 6-phosphate out of the liver is with hormones, glucagon or epinephrine. That's the way you can get it out. So now the glucose is fixed in the cell, but it's only 24 calories worth. So it's not a big, bolus of it. Okay? Now, the glucose 6-phosphate, almost all of it is going to end up going over here to something called glycogen. Now, glycogen is the storage form of glucose in the liver, okay? Because glycogen is easy to fish the glucose out with glucagon and epinephrine. So my question to you, and granted this is a physiology question, is how much glycogen can your liver store before it gets sick?
Ooh, not a lot.
The answer is any amount. It's unlimited. Okay? We have carb loaders who run marathons, right? Okay? Does it hurt them at all? We have kids with a disease where they can't get the glucose out of the glycogen called glycogen storage disease type 1A, or von Gierke's disease. They got livers down to their knees, they're so big. They're hypoglycemic like all get out because they can't lift the glucose out of their liver. Okay? But they don't go into liver failure. Because glycogen is a non-toxic storage form of glucose in the liver.
Okay.
So the whole burn the energy. They're your little factories. Okay? They make the stuff that lets you live. Okay? Called ATP. ATP, adenosine triphosphate. That's the energy of life right there. Okay? So the pyruvate comes in, gets converted to something called acetyl-CoA, gets metabolized by this thing called the Krebs cycle, TCA cycle, and you throw off ATP and carbon dioxide, which you breathe off. So far, so good? Have I snowed anybody yet? You're with me? I snowed one guy back.
You understand? Did you follow any of that, Keelan?
I did.
All right.
There. Okay. I'm doing my best. I swear to God, I'm doing my best. Anyway, so this stuff over here, this acetyl-CoA, gets burned off in the TCA cycle. Now, maybe you won't burn all of it off, and so some of it may exit as citrate, okay? And the citrate then leaves the mitochondria through a process known as the citrate shuttle, and then that citrate can then be broken down by these three enzymes, which are all subservient to this SRABP1. This is ATP citrate lyase, acetyl-CoA carboxylase, fatty acid synthase. They're not important. The only thing to know is these three enzymes together turn sugar into fat. Okay? This is called de novo, meaning new, lipogenesis, fat making. Okay? This is de novo lipogenesis. So you take the citrate, which came from the glucose, okay, and you end up with something called acyl-CoA, which then gets packaged with this protein here, and you end up with something called VLDL, very low density lipoprotein. Now, anybody heard of that before? Is it good or bad? It's bad. That's bad. Okay? VLDL is bad because that's one of the things that causes heart disease.
Like, yeah, good. He was like, it's bad, and they were like, oh, bad, bad, bad.
It's also a substrate for obesity. Okay? So you don't want to make much of this. Okay? But the point is, you started with 24 calories, maybe a half a calorie will end up as VLDL. So that little Japanese guy with the little hat, you know, working out in the field, eating rice for the next, 90 years, can he die of a heart attack at age 90? Sure. Okay? But that's not so bad. Okay? If you make it to 90, you're doing all right. Okay? Because of that VLDL coming from glucose. Okay? Glucose made a little bitty VLDL. Okay? And that serves as a substrate for adipose deposition into your fat cell here, triglyceride. In addition, because the insulin went up in response to the glucose, your brain sees that signal, and it knows that that is supposed to shut off further eating. Okay? In other words, hey, I'm busy metabolizing my breakfast. I don't need lunch. Okay? And so you have a nice negative feedback loop between glucose consumption, the liver, the pancreas, and the brain to keep you in normal negative yin-yang energy balance. This is good. This is not dangerous. This is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's talk about a different carbohydrate. Let's talk about my favorite carbohydrate, maybe yours too.
Alcohol.
Okay? Ethanol. Ethanol is a carbohydrate, isn't it? Here's the structure. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. It's a carbohydrate. But we all know that ethanol is a toxin, right? A poison, right? You can wrap your Lamborghini around a tree, or you can fry your liver. Your choice. Depends on how much you drink and how often, right? Okay. So we know that ethanol is not good for you, except, of course, a little bit is good for you, right? So we can talk about that, too, later if you want. Okay? But let's talk about how it's bad for you. So here's acute ethanol exposure. Okay? CNS depression, vasodilatation, hypothermia, tachycardia, myocardial depression, pupillary responses, respiratory depression, diuresis, hypoglycemia, loss of fine motor control. You all went to college. Here's fructose. Nothing. Doesn't do any of those because the brain doesn't metabolize fructose. Okay? Alcohol gets metabolized in the brain to cause all of those things, but fructose doesn't. Okay? So fructose is not an acute toxin. Ethanol is. We control ethanol, don't we? Okay? We have something called the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, right? We have all sorts of things. We tax ethanol. We do all sorts of things to limit consumption of ethanol. Okay? The Nordic countries, okay, all the liquor stores are state-run in an attempt to try to set the price of ethanol high enough so as to discourage consumption for public health reasons. We have 1,500 years of alcohol control policy in this world to draw on in terms of how to limit consumption. Got it? Okay? Because ethanol is a toxin and we know it. So let's consume 120 calories in ethanol. Shot of Maker's Mark. Anybody taste it? Yeah, good. Okay. So 24 calories right off the top. Okay, the stomach and the intestine have something called the first pass effect. So 10% off the top. And kidney, muscle, and brain will consume the other 10%. So there goes 20% or 24 calories right off the top.
Right now.
96 calories of the 120 are going to hit the liver. Now, how many was it for glucose? It was 24. Okay, so 4 times the substrate is going to hit the liver. And there's the rub. Okay, this is a volume issue. Okay, we're going to show you how. So the ethanol comes in, passive diffusion, there's no receptor for it, no transporter. First thing that happens is ethanol gets converted to this guy over here called acetaldehyde. Okay, anybody know anything about aldehydes? Like formaldehyde, right? Are aldehydes good for you or bad for you? They're bad, right? Because what do?
Fucking formaldehyde?
They can cause cancer. They cross-link proteins is what they do, okay? So if you cross-link enough proteins in your liver, what do you think happens to it? You get something called cirrhosis. Right, exactly, all right? So this guy over here is bad, okay? And it generates something called reactive oxygen species. And reactive oxygen species damage proteins in the liver. And the more alcohol you drink, the more of this stuff you get. So far, so good? Okay, so this is one of the reasons why alcohol is bad. Now, the acetaldehyde will come down here to something called acetate. Okay, the acetate will enter the mitochondria, just like the pyruvate did before, will get converted to acetyl-CoA and participate in the TCA cycle, just like before, okay, to generate energy, so that alcoholics don't die from lack of energy. They got energy, it's everything else they don't have, okay? They're going to have a whole lot of citrate, right? Because they have 96 calories that have to get metabolized. How many calories made it to the mitochondria with glucose?
Half and a half.
About a half,
yeah.
Right? Because most of it went to glycogen. Okay? So we've got a big citrate. So it's in big font to show you that we're talking about big citrate now. Okay? And so the big citrate is going to get metabolized all the way to VLDL by this SRBP1. And so you're going to get a lot of VLDL. And this is the dyslipidemia of alcoholism right here.
Okay, so that's how you get
everybody see that? So the liver's going to try to export this VLDL out so that it doesn't get sick, because when fat builds up in the liver, that's not good for it.
Fatty liver disease. Okay?
Some of it's going to exit as free fatty acids, and those free fatty acids will take up residence in the muscle, and you get something called muscle insulin resistance. So insulin resistance, that's a bad thing. That makes your muscles and your liver not work so well, okay? And can cause all sorts of other problems like diabetes. Some of the acyl-CoA won't even make it out and will precipitate as a lipid droplet. So there's your alcoholic steatohepatitis. This acyl-CoA and this ethanol and these reactive oxygen species can start this enzyme activated. Okay, it's called C-Jun N-terminal kinase 1, or JUNK1, and it really is JUNK1 because it is the bridge between metabolism and inflammation. So when you generate JUNK1, you do bad things to your liver, which I will show you when we talk about fructose. So let's talk about fructose. Okay? Fructose is sweet. We like it a lot.
We
like it in everything. Maybe. We like it in our bread. We like it in our pretzels. We like it everywhere we look.
This is very triggering for me, by the way. It's everything that I eat and drink is being attacked. But man, this is a wake-up call. Holy shit. But it's almost like, what can you eat now, especially now in 2024?
Okay? So let's consume 120 calories in sucrose. A glass of orange juice. Everybody got it?
Past the point of return now, anyway.
2 slices of white bread, a shot of Maker's Mark, a glass of orange juice. All the same 120 calories.
You know what I mean, Herbal?
But 3 different substrates.
It's definitely gone past the point of return.
Let's see what happens to the fructose. So, number 1, the glucose, remember, because sucrose is half glucose, half fructose.
Fiber.
So 60 of the calories of the 120 are glucose. 12 are going to make it into the liver, 48 out here for the rest of the body. Okay, the same 20-80 split we had before with glucose. So far, so good. But all 60 calories of fructose are going to be metabolized by the liver. Why? Because only the liver can metabolize fructose. So what do we call it, where when you take in a compound that's foreign to your body, and only the liver can metabolize it, and in the process generates various problems? What do we call that? We call that a poison. So let me show you how it's a poison. Okay? So So let's watch the fructose. So the fructose comes in through this transporter now. Before it was GLUT2, now it's GLUT5. Okay? No insulin, remember, because fructose does not stimulate insulin. The fructose then gets metabolized by this guy over here called fructokinase to form something called fructose 1-phosphate. In the process, ATP has to give up 1-phosphate to ADP because the phosphate has to come from somewhere. So it comes from here. Now, before we had 24 calories that had to be phosphorylated. Now we have 72 calories that have to be phosphorylated. So we have 3 times the substrate, and there's the rub. It's a volume issue for right now. So we're going to lose a lot of phosphate, aren't we? So there's a scavenger enzyme in your liver called AMP deaminase 1 to rescue the phosphates off the rest of the ATP molecule. And it takes ADP down to AMP, adenosine monophosphate, down to IMP, inositol monophosphate, and finally to the waste product, uric acid. Anybody ever heard of uric acid?
P.
What is it?
P.
It's a waste product. Goes out in your urine. Causes what disease? Gout. Right. Okay? It also causes another disease called hypertension. Okay, let me show you how. Because uric acid, turns out, blocks the enzyme in your blood vessels called endothelial nitric oxide synthase. And that's the enzyme that makes this stuff called nitric oxide, NO. And that is your endogenous blood pressure lowerer. That keeps your blood pressure low. So when you can't make it, your blood pressure goes up. So this just shows that fructose consumption increases gout in adults. Okay, so this is a study that came out last year showing that fructose consumption increases the risk for gout, showing that uric acid's going up. And this is a study done by our pediatric renal fellow, Stephanie Wynn, just published in Journal of Pediatrics. Okay, it's not submitted anymore, it's long in press. Okay, showing that this is in the NHANES database in the adolescents, showing that sugared sweetened beverages, as it goes up, your uric acid goes up. And not only does your uric acid go up, but here's your sugared sweetened beverages, and here's your systolic blood pressure going up. And here's a study done by Dan Feig at the University of Texas San Antonio, where he took obese adolescents with hypertension, and he gave them the drug allopurinol. And allopurinol is the drug that you treat gout with to lower the uric acid. And look what happened to the blood pressure. Systolic, diastolic, went down, showing that, in fact, uric acid is an important part of hypertension. We have a hypertension epidemic in this country. Here it is. It's the sugar. Okay, so far we have high blood pressure. Let's keep going. The fructose will get metabolized down to pyruvate. The pyruvate will enter the mitochondria just like before, throwing off a lot of citrate. Now here's a little trick that fructose does that glucose doesn't. Because these two can reform this stuff over here called fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, which can then reform with glyceraldehyde to form this guy over here called xylulose 5-phosphate. And I'll get to xylulose 5-phosphate in a moment. But I want to point out this asterisk. That's there to remind me to tell you something. That's there to remind me to tell you that this is why the sports drink companies put high fructose corn syrup in the sports drinks. Because if you are glycogen depleted, in other words, if you just ran a marathon and you have no glycogen left in your liver because you burned it all, and you take in a sports drink with high fructose corn syrup, you can replete your glycogen faster than with glucose alone. That's true. So for elite athletes, a high fructose corn syrup containing sports drink actually makes sense. And so, indeed, sports drinks have high fructose corn syrup. The question is, who's drinking the sports drinks? Any elite athletes you know? Who's drinking the sports drinks? The kids, right? Why are they drinking it? Because it's cool, right? Because it's cool and it tastes good. Okay, so before we go on, I just want to now digress for a moment. Okay? 1967, University of Florida patents
Back when men were
Gatorade.
men.
Everybody remember Gatorade? Okay. 1970, the Florida Gators win the NCAA championship in football. Gatorade makes a big splash. Okay? Big deal. Anybody ever taste the original Gatorade? Yeah? What did it taste like?
Water.
Tasted horrible. Okay? It tasted like something that you might find, coming out of you instead of going into you. Okay? It tasted awful. Okay?
'Cause it was very salty.
1992, Pepsi buys
Usually
Gatorade. And they say, how are we going to market this swill?
Disguisable.
So what did they do? They added the high fructose corn syrup. Okay? So now who drinks it? Right, fat kids. Right? Not even skinny kids. Fat kids drink it. Okay? So there's a problem here. Okay, and we're going to show you how that works. Okay, so xylulose 5-phosphate, just to show you. So here's, if you take a rat and you glycogen deplete them by making them run on an exercise wheel, okay, and then you refeed them with starch or with sucrose, the xylulose 5-phosphate goes way up with the sucrose. Okay, so you get more xylulose 5-phosphate through this pathway here, going over here. So why do we care about xylulose 5-phosphate? Well, here's why. Because it stimulates this guy over here called PP2A, which then activates this transcription factor here, carbohydrate response element binding protein, which then activates what 3 enzymes? New fat making, right? De novo lipogenesis. So here's the citrate, right? We got lots of that. And here we've got acyl-CoA, which is the way into fat. Okay,
So
which then gets
fucking
packaged,
calories.
right? Oops, with the to the VLDL, and now you've got the dyslipidemia of obesity, of fructose consumption, which has been known for many years. So here's normal medical students, if you can call them normal. Okay, taking in a glucose load, notice almost none of it ends up as fat. Taking in a fructose load, same number of calories, 30% of it ends up as fat. So when you consume fructose, you're not consuming a carbohydrate, you're consuming fat. So everybody talks about a high-fat diet. Well, a high-sugar diet is a high-fat diet. That's the point. That's exactly the point. Okay? This is a study where they gave acute administration of fructose, and you can see the triglycerides going up compared to the control. Okay, serum triglyceride right there. Here's...
And it's in fucking everything, bruh. It is in literally everything.
Normal medical students,
Crazy to
again,
think about,
6
right?
days of high fructose feeding.
Especially when he's talking about it being like a
doubled.
poison.
De novo lipogenesis went up 5 times
You know what I
higher.
mean?
And here's
Exactly.
free fatty acids, which then cause insulin resistance, doubled. Okay, 6 days. So here's the dyslipidemia of fructose consumption. We're not done. Some of the fat won't make it out of the liver, just like with ethanol, and now you've got a lipid droplet, so now you've got this non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. So this is work that we did in our clinic, okay, looking at sugar-sweetened beverage consumption against the liver enzyme marker ALT, alanine aminotransferase, which tells you about fatty liver. And sure enough, here's sugar-sweetened beverages against ALT, and you can see a nice linear relationship in Caucasians. African Americans, it's a different relationship, and that's a whole nother story all by itself. Okay? So there's the lipid droplet of a non-alcoholic steatohepatitis.
Is he not going to explain the
difference?
difference?
Fatty acids and
I feel like that's
a non-alcoholic
you
steatohepatitis.
can't just like it's also different for niggas, but we're
It's
not
a
gonna get
different
into
story
that right
altogether.
now. It's like what is this? You know, I mean,
Caucasian against ALT, and you can see a nice linear relationship in Caucasians. African Americans, it's a different relationship.
Why is it so different? I don't get it. Is it because they weren't
And
allowed
that's a
this
whole
type
nother
of stuff
story
for a while?
all by itself. Okay? So there's the lipid droplet of a non-alcoholic steatohepatitis.
Like
Some of it will come out as free
like-
fatty acids and populate the
Speaking
muscle.
like
We'll also tell the
realistically,
insulin to go up
not
higher.
trying to be a dick.
Remember that junk 1? So here's what junk 1 does. So the acyl-CoA and the fructose can all activate junk 1. And what junk
Watermelon
What's
flavored
fucked up is the fat kid that he's talking about in this video was me when I was a kid.
junk 1 does
Like
is,
I was
remember
that kid
when we used glucose,
watching
this
this as
IRS
an adult.
became tyrosine IRS1, and that was good.
fuck.
Remember that? Well, junk 1,
This
what
is
it does is
detrimental
it
effects
serine
of-
phosphorylates IRS1. And serine IRS1 is inactive. So now,
Why
the
is it
insulin
serine?
can't even do its job in the liver. So now you have
Why is it
liver
serine?
insulin resistance as well. That's going to make the pancreas work that much harder, generating higher insulin levels, which raise your blood pressure even further, cause further fat making, cause more energy to go into your fat cell. There's your obesity. Okay? And finally,
this is the most science
our
I've
research has
seen
shown that the higher the insulin
school.
goes, the less well your brain. Finally, our research has your obesity. Okay? And finally, our research has shown that the higher the insulin goes, the less well your brain can see its leptin. And so there you've got continued consumption because your brain thinks it's starving. And it's been shown in many different ways that fructose consumption changes the way your brain recognizes energy, all in a negative fashion, so that you basically think you're starving. Your brain gets the signal that you're starving, even though your fat cells are generating a signal that says, hey, I'm full like all get out. Okay? So this just shows you how it goes. So the high insulin generates the obesity because this is that, remember that the first law of thermodynamics, the biochemical force generating the energy storage as the primary phenomenon, remember? If you're going to store it and you expect to burn it, then you're going to have to eat it. So here's the store it. Normally, that would make leptin, and the leptin should feed back and turn everything off. But it doesn't because the insulin gets in the way, and the high-fat diet gets in the way. Also, the hyperinsulinemia stops the leptin from acting on that nucleus accumbens, and so you get an increased reward signal. So that continues your appetite, continues more fructose, more carbohydrate, generating more insulin resistance, and you can see you generate a vicious cycle of consumption and disease, and no stopping. So here we are. Hypertension, inflammation, hepatic insulin resistance, hyperinsulinemia, dyslipidemia, muscle insulin resistance, obesity, and continued consumption. Looks like metabolic syndrome to me. So here are the phenomena.
Oh, here we go.
Chronic
Ethanol exposure. Herbal, this is you.
Hematologic disorders, electrolyte abnormalities, hypertension, cardiac dilatation, cardiomyopathy, dyslipidemia, pancreatitis, malnutrition, obesity, hepatic dysfunction, that's alcoholic steatohepatitis, fetal alcohol syndrome, and addiction. Here's fructose. 8 out of 12. Why? Because they do the same thing. Because they're metabolized the same way. Because they are the same. They come from the same place, right? How do you make ethanol? Naturally. Right. You ferment sugar. Hasn't changed.
Damn.
Come from the same place, right? How do you make ethanol? Naturally. Right. You ferment sugar.
God damn. Okay, so my whole thing with this is, so the stuff that you don't get is fucking malnutrition, cardiac dilatation.
I think what this means is
abnormalities, hematologic disorders.
Because the reason you're not getting those is because obviously it's ethanol, so it's fermented sugar into ethanol, whereas it's the same process, but it's creating a different thing. So it's like it's having a different reaction. So it's probably not causing those other things.
Maybe. I don't think I can explain why it doesn't do these things or why it does the other.
Why? Because they are the same. They come from the same place, right? How do you make ethanol? Naturally. Right. You ferment sugar. Hasn't changed because it has all the same properties, because it's basically taken care of by the liver in exactly the same way and for the same reason, because sugar and ethanol are the same every which way you turn. So here's our clinic intervention. This is what we do in our clinic. Okay, it's as simple as you can imagine. We write this on the back of a matchbook.
Water and milk.
Okay, I mean it's just as simple as you can make it. We have 4 things we teach the kids to do and the parents. Get rid of every sugared liquid in the house, bar none. Only water and milk. Okay? There is no such thing as a good sugared beverage, period. Eat your carbohydrate with fiber. Why? Because fiber is good. Fiber is supposed to be an essential nutrient. And we can talk later, if you want, after the cameras turn off, as to why fiber is not an essential nutrient, because the government doesn't want it to be. Okay, because then they couldn't sell food abroad.
Well, because they couldn't.
Okay, because then they couldn't.
They can't sell food abroad. It's the whole. That's how they make money from the food industry.
Okay, because then they couldn't sell food abroad.
Oh, there we go.
And do you know why they can't sell food abroad?
Second portions. Okay, to get that satiety signal.
Because when they take the fiber out, he explained it earlier. The reason that they take the fiber out is because they can sell it abroad, meaning they can freeze it, they can ship it, it lasts a lot longer on the shelf. That's the whole reason they got rid of fiber.
It goes bad faster.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, because then they couldn't sell food abroad. Wait 20 minutes for second portions, okay, to get that satiety signal. And finally, buy your screen time minute for minute with physical activity. That's the hardest one to do. Okay? So if you play for half an hour, you can watch TV for half an hour. You want to watch TV for an hour, play for an hour. That one's a hard one. But anyway, we follow our patients every 3 months. So here's my question. Does it work? What do you think? Yeah, it works. Okay? Yeah. So this is BMI Z-score, time from initial visit. It works. But we were interested in what made it work and what made it didn't work. So we did a multivariate linear regression analysis, right? The thing that made it not work.
It just looks like a receipt.
Sugared beverage consumption. The more sugar beverages the patients drank at baseline, the less well the lifestyle intervention worked, for all the reasons I just showed you. Okay? So, why is exercise important in obesity? Because it burns calories? Come on. 20 minutes of jogging is one chocolate chip cookie. You can't do it. Are you joking me? So why is exercise important? I'll tell you why. Here's why. Number one, it improves that skeletal muscle insulin sensitivity because your insulin actually works better at your muscle, okay, which then brings your insulin levels down, which is good for you. Number two, it's your endogenous stress reducer. It's the single thing that actually stress reduces. And if you stress reduce, what do you think your appetite does? Goes down. Because stress and obesity go hand in hand, right? For all sorts of reasons which are beyond the scope of this lecture today, but we can talk about in the question period if you want. And then finally, remember that de novo lipogenesis? Remember those 3 nasty enzymes?
Yeah.
Okay. What if you burned the stuff off before you made the fat? That's what exercise does, because it makes that TCA cycle run faster, so you don't get the citrate leaving the mitochondria, so it doesn't get turned into fat, so it doesn't precipitate and cause all the problems you just saw. That's what they mean by a higher metabolism, yes. Okay? But it has nothing to do with burning of calories. That is the stupidest reason that I've ever heard of for exercise. You gotta be joking me. Okay? You can't do it. I mean, one Big Mac, and you got to, mountain bike for 10 hours. Are you joking?
That's true.
Okay, so why is fiber important in obesity?
Here you
So
go.
this is my motto in clinic. When God made the poison, he packaged it with the antidote. Okay? Because fructose is a poison. I think I've hopefully shown you that. Okay? But wherever there's fructose in nature, there's way more fiber. Do you ever see a piece of sugar cane? It's a stick. Right? You can't even chew the damn thing, right? You got to suck the stuff out like that, right? I mean, how many calories do you think you're going to get out of a piece of sugar cane? Okay? They actually did studies on the sugar plantations back in the early 1900s. Okay? All of the workers were healthy and lived longer than the sugar executives who got the processed product. How about that? Wonder why. Okay? So, eat your carbohydrate with fiber. That's why we say that. That includes sugar. That's why fruit's okay. Because number one, it limits how much fructose you're going to take in. And number two, it gives you an essential nutrient, which you needed in the first place. And you get some micronutrients along with it so that you actually can, your liver works healthier. So here's what fiber does. Number one, it reduces the rate of intestinal carbohydrate absorption. Okay? Now, sometimes that's bad. I'll tell you when that's bad. Okay? You know when that's bad? That's bad when you're at a formal function.
You can shit your pants.
Because what happens if you reduce the rate of carbohydrate absorption in your gut.
You shit
The
your
bacteria
pants.
get to it. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, in life, you've got two choices. It's either fat or fart. It increases the speed of transit of the intestinal contents to the ileum, okay? And that raises this hormone over here called PYY, which goes to your brain and tells you.
But I'm fat and I also fart a lot. Maybe that's just because I'm
You would fart
lactose
more.
intolerant
Maybe
and
that's
just
what you're saying.
refuse to not drink milk.
The meal's over. That's your satiety signal. So when you add fiber to your diet,
Why don't you just get
you actually get your
lacto-free?
satiety signal sooner because the food moves through faster. And then finally, it also inhibits the absorption of some free fatty acids all the way to the colon, and then those get chopped up into little itty-bitty fragments called short-chain fatty acids, and those actually suppress insulin as opposed to long-chain fatty acids, which stimulate insulin. So there are a whole bunch of reasons why fiber is good. Anybody ever heard of the Paleolithic diet?
Nope.
Okay?
Yeah,
Go
the
home and
paleo
read up on it on the internet. Okay? The Paleolithic diet. Basically, if you eat everything as it came out of the ground raw, okay, with no cooking, okay, you would cure diabetes on a dime. Okay? It takes about a week. Okay? Because you're
Wow.
getting that 100 to 300 grams of fiber I mentioned before. That's why. Because fiber is
So
good
fiber
for you.
would cure diabetes.
And the more the better.
Yeah, but you're eating shit raw.
Type 2, right, type 2, not type 1. Type 1.
So?
I stand corrected, type 2. Okay?
If it cures
Okay.
diabetes, I
Now,
would eat shit
for some
raw for a
fun.
week.
Okay, that's the end of the biochemistry. Whew. How'd I do?
Is that
Nice.
true?
I told you I'd get you through it. Okay,
I'm
so now
sure
comes the
it's-
fun part, okay? The racial innuendos and
Maybe
the,
not like-
all the political
it's on a
stuff, okay? The
case-by-case basis.
fructosification of America and, of course, the world. Ready?
You said it would take about a week.
Another quiz. Can you name the 7 foodstuffs at McDonald's that don't have high fructose corn syrup or sucrose? No, mustard has it.
No, you can't.
Oh, come on, the big one.
Except for water.
French fries. But they have salt, starch, and fat, so they're not so good either. Okay, what else?
Water has none of it.
We'll get to coffee. Hash browns, for the same reason, right? Salt, starch, and fat. Okay, what else? Chicken McNuggets. I was shocked. No sucrose or high fructose corn
I
syrup
bet
in
it
chicken
has it
McNuggets.
now.
But as the
Probably.
circuit court judge in New York called them, they are still a McFrankenstein creation. Okay, but nonetheless, no sucrose. I was really shocked. Sausage. Oh, they're terrible. They're just disastrous. But I mean, there's nothing good in them at all. But there's no fructose. Sausage. Diet Coke. Coffee, if you don't add the sugar, and iced tea, if you don't add the sugar.
Disgusting.
By the way, the chicken McNuggets have, we have a disclaimer, because no one eats the chicken McNuggets without the dipping sauce. And there's a whole bunch of high fructose corn syrup in the dipping sauce, right? Okay, good. All right. So who's
Gatorade.
really drinking this? We talked about this before. Gatorade AM. So this is an attempt by Pepsi to capture market share on the juice market, right? Do you think there are any elite athletes who actually drink this stuff? You got to be kidding me. Okay, this is for kids, right? So this really blew my socks off. This was my daughter when she was in 2nd grade 2 years ago, Miriam Lustig, okay? Brought these 2 cartons of milk home for me and said, Dad, you're not going to believe this, okay? 2nd grade, okay? So here's the calories in Berkeley Farms 1% low-fat milk, 130 calories, 15 of them are sugars because it's lactose, right, which is okay. And here's Berkeley
can get
Farms 1%
lactose-free.
chocolate milk, 190 calories, 29 grams of sugar, all high fructose corn syrup. Okay? It's like a glass of milk plus a half a glass of orange juice. Okay? And that's what we're giving to our kids. And you know what the nutrition department at the SFUSD says? Well, we have to get our kids to drink milk somehow. Now, is that brilliant or what? I don't know. Now, what about WIC? Okay? So we talked about the 112 pounds of orange juice that the kid down in Salinas was drinking. What about WIC? So remember what we started with? We have an epidemic of obese 6-month-olds.
His kids, I bet his whole family are just on like a strict like dietary lifestyle where they're just like they've been raised on no sugar anything, you know.
So could
Well,
this
you
be
have to
the
have
reason?
some sugars.
So here's a can of
Well, no
formula.
high fructose corn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
43.2% corn syrup solids, 10.3% sugar. It's a
53.
baby milkshake. Soda, Coca-Cola is 10.5% sucrose. Formula is 10.3% sucrose. Any difference? And there's a huge literature that's now coming of age that shows that the earlier you expose kids to sweet, the more they're going to crave it later.
That's wrong.
Plus, there's a new literature that shows the more sugar the pregnant woman drinks or eats during the pregnancy, the more that gets across the placenta and actually causes what we call developmental programming, changing the kid's adiposity even before the kid is born and driving this whole epidemic even further. So, we'll close in a few minutes, okay? But I just want to point out what's the difference. Okay, here we got a can of Coke, here we got a can of beer. And I'm not picking on Schlitz or anything, I mean, it's, any beer you want, okay? So, 150 calories each, no difference in terms of total calories. Percent carbohydrate, so 10.5% from sucrose here, except it's high fructose corn syrup, but who cares? Okay, 3.6% alcohol. Here's the breakdown, 75 fructose, 75 glucose for the Coke, okay? 90 alcohol, 60 maltose for the beer. Remember, the first pass GI metabolism takes 10% of the alcohol off the table. So when you actually compute the number of calories hitting the liver, which remember was the big difference between glucose and fructose, remember? 72 versus 24, and started the whole thing into motion as terms of what happens that's bad, okay? Bottom line, no difference. So, we have
What's that raw
something
food
called
diet
beer
called again?
belly.
Beer
Well,
belly.
welcome to
Herbal?
soda belly, because that's what America is suffering from.
Really, you lose the
No ifs, ands, or buts.
He uses the little fat kid from fucking. Oh, bruh.
Herbal, what's that raw food diet again?
The paleo diet.
We have something called beer belly. Well, welcome to soda belly, because that's what America is suffering from. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's what it is. Okay? Now, you wouldn't think twice about not giving your kid a Budweiser, but you don't think twice about giving your kid a can of Coke. But they're the same. In the same dosing, for the same reason, through the same mechanism. Fructose is ethanol without the buzz. So,
Ooh.
fructose is a carbohydrate, yes, it is. But fructose is metabolized like a fat. And I've just shown you that 30% of any ingested fructose load ends up as fat. Okay, so when people talk about high-fat diets doing bad things, no, what they're really talking about is high fructose diets. And that's what Ansel Keys was looking at. So the corollary to that is, in America at least, and around the world too, a low-fat diet isn't really a low-fat diet, because the fructose or sucrose doubles as fat. It's really a high-fat diet.
God damn.
That's why our diets don't work. And fructose, just like ethanol, for the same reason, through the same mechanism, and in the same dosing, is also a toxin. Now, last, what can we do about it? Can we do anything about it? How about the FDA? You think they can do something about it? After all, aren't they supposed to regulate our food? Aren't they supposed to regulate what they can put in food? Right?
Bro, you could tell this motherfucker is like, oh, there's like a whole conspiracy theory that he has that he doesn't want to say. Like, he's really itching at the gills to just say what he really wants to think. That's why he's made a few of the references, like, after camera. We'll see what, we'll see what we really think about that. And then, like, even before, when he was like, it's because they don't want to sell food abroad. It's so they can sell food abroad. Like, he has a whole conspiracy theory about the whole thing, and you can tell he's just itching to share it with, like, some fucking college students who just take that shit to, like, 5, 6 different levels. How many co-eds do you think this dude is banging?
At least 10.
Bruh, at least.
Weren't they supposed to regulate tobacco? Now they are, actually. So, you know, weird things. So I want to just show you what the tobacco company thinks of all this. So this is actually from the UCSF Legacy Tobacco Documents Library that Stan Glantz runs right across the street. Okay, Stan's a good guy. Okay, like Stan a lot. Okay, and he showed me this. He said, under the regulations governing food additives, so this came from an Altria or Philip Morris executive, it is required that additives be safe, defined as a reasonable certainty by competent scientists that no harm will result from the intended use of the additive. Now, does fructose meet that standard? Well, the FDA says that fructose, high fructose corn syrup, has what's known as GRAS, G-R-A-S status, generally regarded as safe.
Yes,
Where'd that
generally.
come from? Nowhere. It came from nowhere. Okay? It came from the notion that, well, fructose is natural. It's in fruit. Must be okay. Right? Yeah, well, tobacco's natural too, but it's not. Ethanol's natural, but it's not. Okay? A whole bunch of, Jamaican ackee fruit's natural, but it's not either. It kills you. Okay? Keeping on going. A food shall be deemed to be adulterated if it bears or contains any poisonous or deleterious substance which may render it injurious to health. Fructose fits that description, right? But not with the prevention of chronic diseases, even though its own regulations explicitly postulate the connection between such products and such diseases. In other words, the FDA will only regulate acute toxins, not a chronic toxin. Fructose is a chronic toxin, right? Acute fructose exposure did nothing, remember? Because the brain doesn't metabolize fructose. The liver does. And the liver doesn't get sick after one fructose meal. It gets sick after 1,000 fructose meals. But that's how many we eat. So the FDA isn't touching this. The USDA isn't touching this. Because if the USDA touched this, what would that mean? That would mean an admission to the world that our food is a problem. So what do you think that would do? There are 3 things in this country that we can still sell overseas. Weapons, entertainment, and food. Cars?
No.
Computers? I don't think so. Can anybody think of anything else that another country wants of ours?
Guns.
What? Tobacco, right, tobacco. All right, you get the picture.
America has terrible tobacco.
So the USDA doesn't want to know about this.
Do they want our guns,
this is
or
bad
do we
news.
want their guns? I think we just want
And so who runs the food pyramid? The USDA.
Oh, yeah.
It's the fox in charge of the hen house. Okay, because their job is to sell food. And who's eating it? We are. So, in summary, fructose, and I don't care what the vehicle is, it's irrelevant. Sucrose or high fructose corn syrup, I don't care. Fructose consumption's increased in the past 30 years, coinciding with the obesity epidemic. A calorie is not a calorie, okay? And the dietitians in this country are actually perpetrating this on us. Because the more you think a calorie is a calorie, the more you think, well, then if you ate less and exercised more, it would work. It doesn't. All of the studies show it doesn't work. Here's why it doesn't work, because a calorie is not a calorie. Fructose is not glucose. We know a calorie is not a calorie because there are good fats and bad fats. There's good protein and bad protein. Okay, there's good carbohydrate and bad carbohydrate. And glucose is good carbohydrate. Glucose is the energy of life. Fructose, okay, is poison. You are not what you eat. You are what you do with what you eat. And what you do with fructose is particularly egregious and dangerous. Hepatic fructose metabolism leads to all the manifestations of the metabolic syndrome. Hypertension through that uric acid pathway, de novo lipogenesis dyslipidemia, hepatic steatosis through that DNL pathway, those 3 enzymes, the new fat-making pathway, inflammation through JUNK1, hepatic insulin resistance because of the serine phosphorylation of IRS1, obesity because of the VLDL transport to the adipocyte, and leptin resistance promoting continuous consumption, basically starving your brain, making you think you need more.
God damn.
Fructose ingestion interferes with obesity intervention, as we showed in our clinic. The more soft drinks, the less well diet and exercise actually worked. Fructose is a chronic hepatotoxin for the same reason that alcohol is. The only difference is alcohol is metabolized by the brain, so you get alcohol effects. Fructose is not metabolized by the brain, so you don't get those effects, but everything else it does is the same. But the FDA can't and won't regulate it. It's up to us. I'm standing here today to recruit you. Okay, that's a famous saying here in San Francisco, right? I'm Harvey Milk and I'm here to recruit you. Okay, I'm Robert Lustig and I'm here to recruit you in the war against bad food.
Man, Harvey Milk references,
and this is what's bad.
Super old.
With that, I want to thank my colleagues at the UCSF Department of Pediatrics in our Weight Assessment for Teen and Child Health Clinic, UCSF Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics, and also Department of Nutritional Sciences at UC Berkeley, in particular Dr. Jean-Marc Schwartz, who is a card-carrying fructose biochemist, PhD biochemist, who vetted all of these pathways that I've shown you today and looked at this and said, oh my God, it is a toxin. He worked in this stuff for 15 years, and he didn't even realize it was a toxin until he saw this. So with that, I'll close. Thank you.
Man, did I ever tell you about the time that I fucking, like, they put me in like a weight loss thing and I fucking just ruined the whole thing? I was like, so my doctor, who shall not be named, was, I think she was a pediatric doctor, and
A pediatrician?
yeah, and she basically kind of started this, like, she was like the head of this like program, getting together all of these different fat kids, and basically the idea of the program was that we would start cutting things out of our diets and start exercising more, and then recording that, and then showing the results to the doctors, and showing how much weight we lost through the course, right? And then we were supposed to partnered up with each other, like we made friends and stuff like that in order to encourage each other in like the weight loss. But these kids were like super strict on their fucking diets, or their parents were super strict on like the foods that they could have. But like my parents, my mom, grandma, they would just go to Costco and buy in bulk just tons of shit, bro. Tons of snacks and cakes and cookies and blah, blah, blah. And they just stopped putting them in my lunch. But they were still in the house, so I would just go grab some, all throughout the day. 5-6 bags a day for like a month. Because there were tons of bags. And so when I realized that the kids didn't have them, I would start giving the kids like the snacks out of my house, right? Candies and cookies and all kinds of little snacks. Man. And like at first we were all like losing weight, and then as we became closer friends and I was giving them more and more food, like the weight loss slowly started to taper off, and then they started to gain weight. And the parents didn't really understand what was going on. And like it sort of ended up as like a failure, where it was like at first the kids started to show progress and signs of actually losing weight, and then slowly over time they started to taper off and then started to gain back the weight that they initially lost. And there were only like 4 kids in the program, like 4 or 5. But man, eventually we just stopped going to the fucking meetings, and that's because the program was like terminated. And I don't know if that was because of me, but I hope it wasn't. I wish them all the best. Anyway.
Definitely was.
Yeah, I mean, this made me really think about, how, like, calories in, calories out really isn't a thing. It's the type of foods that you eat. Like, you have to look at it very carefully. And I hope I'm probably not gonna in the future. But, I mean, I'll have to deal with the consequences of that. Anyway.